One more instructional point for the kids who are watching their first presidential election. No previous candidate has ever said she's a stupid person about one of their opponents. That's new language for presidential campaigning brought into it by Donald Trump and only Donald Trump. And obviously, no previous presidential candidate has ever publicly fantasized about one of his political opponents facing 9 guns shooting at her. Here's what Vice President Harris said about that this morning in Wisconsin.
He has increased his violent rhetoric, Donald Trump has, about political opponents, and in great detail, suggested rifles should be trained on former Representative Liz Cheney. This must be disqualifying. Anyone who wants to be president of the United States who uses that kind of violent rhetoric is clearly disqualified and unqualified to be president. Representative Cheney is a true patriot who has shown extraordinary courage in putting country above party. Trump is increasingly, however, someone who considers his political opponents the enemy, is permanently out for revenge, and is increasingly unstable and unhinged. His enemies list has grown longer, his rhetoric has grown more extreme, and he is even less focused than before on the needs and the concerns and the challenges facing the American people.
Unstable and unhinged. That's as far as Vice President Harris is willing to go rhetorically. It's also factual. There is no one who can claim that Donald Trump is not unstable. Notice that she did not say stupid. That is not presidential language or language for presidential candidates. I use the word stupid to describe Donald Trump, but I'm not running for president. And stupid is a fact with Donald Trump. He has proved that time and time again. The defenders of Trump spent the day insisting that he did not mean that he wanted to see Liz Cheney executed by a firing squad. But the one person who did not deny that Donald Trump wants to see Liz Cheney executed by a firing squad is Donald Trump. Donald Trump refused to deny his political opponent's interpretation about what he said about Liz Cheney last night. He simply let the accusation stand that he wants to have Liz Cheney executed by a firing squad. And today, he added this.
If you gave Liz Cheney a gun and put her into battle facing the other side with guns pointing at her, she wouldn't have the courage or the strength or the stamina to even look the enemy in the eye. She wouldn't have. She sits back in Washington. Oh, we ought to go and attack Iran, Iraq. We're going to attack everybody. That's why I broke up with her. All she wanted to do is go to war with everybody. Because she, like Kamala, is a stupid person.
Liz Cheney responded to Donald Trump this way. This is how dictators destroy free nations. They threaten those who speak against them with death. We cannot entrust our country and our freedom to a petty, vindictive, cruel, unstable man who wants to be a tyrant. Women will not be silenced. Vote Kamala. And so Donald Trump is ending his campaign the way he began it and the way he lives every day of his life, a petty, vindictive, cruel, and unstable person. The latest Marist poll released today shows Kamala Harris at 50% of the vote in Pennsylvania to Donald Trump's 48%. And today, the Harris campaign released this ad in Pennsylvania.
This election, it's bigger than us. It's about the future. Do you want more chaos? Or like me, are you ready for some common sense? That's why I'm with Kamala. I've known her for 2 decades. She's practical, and she gets stuff done.
As president, I will chart a new way forward and find solutions to create jobs and bring down costs. I will fight for you and your family every day.
Pennsylvania, let's not go back.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Joining our discussion now is Democratic Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania. He is running for re-election this year. Senator Casey, no one has been better at guiding us through presidential campaign expectations in Pennsylvania and your own Senate campaign. Where do you see the presidential race tonight in Pennsylvania? What will you be looking for in the returns Tuesday night?
Well, Lawrence, it's very close, and I think it's close in the presidential race and in my Senate race. But there's a lot of energy on the ground. I've been all across the state. People are ready to vote. People are working at it. And as you said earlier about how they're ending the race, they're also on a policy platform ending the race the way they've started a lot of races on their side, which is wanting to destroy the Affordable Care Act. My opponent just tonight said that he wanted to rip away the provision that allows young people to stay on their parents' insurance until the age of 26. So they're at it again. They want to tear away the protections of the Affordable Care Act and destroy Medicaid at the same time. So we got to fight back against that. We've got to stop them on Election Day from that radical policy, including banning abortion and undermining voting rights and workers' rights. So if you're with us to stop this radical extreme Republican Party, please help us and go to bobcasey.com.
Senator, I just want to go to that point about taking health insurance away from people 26 years old and younger. This is the provision of the Affordable Care Act that allows, say, a kid who graduates from college, who might be 22, not have health insurance yet, allows that person to stay on the parent's health insurance policy until the age of 26. This has been a very important provision in my family. This has been an important position for millions of people all around the country. And your opponent did say he wants to specifically rip that insurance away from those people 26 years old and younger. And let's listen to him actually say it. We have that audio.
What about this 26-year-old so they can stay on their parents' insurance?
Is that Obamacare a result of Obamacare?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not for that. I got to get my kids working.
Senator, that's not what other Republicans say. They say, oh, I want to repeal Obamacare, but we'll take care of that. Don't worry about that. They tell the lie that we'll just take care of it. At least he's telling the truth. He wants to rip that insurance away from those young people.
No question about it. And Lawrence, it extends beyond that. Republicans, like my opponent, always say positive things about some aspects of the Affordable Care Act, yet they constantly want to repeal it. And they also denigrate Medicaid over and over again, which is obviously not just a health care program for those without health insurance. It's the nursing home program. It's the long-term care for your loved one program. And they want to tear that up as well. So we've got to continue to fight back against this radical extreme proposals. And you know, Lawrence, from your time on the Finance Committee, that if you give away the store to big corporations and very wealthy Americans, you're putting Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security on the chopping block because it just drains revenue and gives it all the way to the most powerful in our country. That's been my opponent's plan to support that kind of tax policy, explode the debt and really expose those programs to massive cuts.
Senator, what will you be looking for Tuesday night in early returns that might tell us where Pennsylvania is going?
Well, Lawrence, I think it's so close that I'm not sure one county or one or two counties will tell us. But obviously, southeastern Pennsylvania is going to be key. Philadelphia and the 4 suburban counties around it. I'm in Pittsburgh tonight, and this region, as a region beyond Pittsburgh, is going to be determinative as well. But I don't think I doubt we'll know a result until after midnight. But between now and then, we got to keep working, and we're going to need help fighting back against these billionaires. So we can still buy more advertising, and I hope people will go to bobcasey.com to help us not just defeat my opponent and keep a Senate majority, but beat these billionaires.
Pennsylvania Senator Bob Casey, thank you very much for joining us again.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Thank you. Well, women cannot get life-saving care now in Texas and many other states. And you don't have to ask them whether they like it or not, as Donald Trump would say. And you cannot ask the women who have been killed by the laws enforced by the Republican men of Texas government, laws made possible by Donald Trump, who appointed 3 of the Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe versus Wade. On this program on Wednesday, we reported to you the latest report by ProPublica of a woman dying in Texas because she could not receive proper medical care after a miscarriage, because that proper medical care is now a crime in Texas, thanks to Donald Trump. Like other women who have died after having a miscarriage, the latest story involves a woman who already had a child, a daughter, who will someday grow up to know who really killed her mother. And now we are learning about 18-year-old Nevaeh Crane, who died trying to access emergency care in Texas. ProPublica reports, quote, feverish and vomiting the day of her baby shower. The 18-year-old had gone to 2 different emergency rooms within 12 hours, returning home each time worse than before as she screened positive for sepsis, a life-threatening and fast-moving reaction to an infection, medical records show, but doctors said her 6-month fetus had a heartbeat and that Crane was fine to leave. Now on Crane's 3rd hospital visit, an obstetrician insisted on 2 ultrasounds to confirm fetal demise. A nurse wrote before moving her to intensive care. By then, more than 2 hours after her arrival, Crane's blood pressure had plummeted, and a nurse had noted that her lips were blue and dusky. Her organs began failing. Hours later, she was dead. Nevaeh Crane would have been 20 years old today. Democratic Senate nominee in Texas, Colin Allred, reminded voters who else is to blame.
This is Ted Cruz's fault. This is his abortion ban. He made it his life's work to put Texas women in these life-threatening situations. He helped elect anti-abortion state legislators and appoint federal judges he knew would threaten Texans' freedoms. He endorsed personal amendments and championed court cases undermining the freedom to access abortion. He supports no exceptions for rape, incest, or the health of the mother. And this year, he even lobbied the Supreme Court to allow states to block emergency abortion care. And he praised Texas abortion law, calling it perfectly reasonable. There's nothing reasonable about these women's deaths.
Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Colin Allred. He is running for the United States Senate in Texas against Senator Cruz. Senator, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And just warning to both you and the audience, we may have to cut away to Vice President Harris's speech as soon as it starts. This story now is the latest one in Texas about a woman dying because Texas law denies her medical care that doctors want to give, but they fear delivering that care because they fear they themselves would then be charged with a crime.
That's right, Lawrence, and thank you for having me on. I'm sorry that we have to keep coming on to talk about this. We've seen the data that's shown that we've had a 56% increase in our maternal mortality rate, but now we're seeing and hearing the stories. And Jocelyn and Nevaeh should be alive. This is on Ted Cruz. This is his abortion ban here in Texas. They were warned about what the consequences could be, and they pursued this anyway. And we're 4 days away from an election. I need everyone to go to colinallred.com to make sure that we can not only beat Ted Cruz here, but restore a woman's right to choose in Texas, restore doctors' ability to take care of their patients, make Roe v. Wade the law of the land again.
Senator Cruz is pretending that this is an issue that only the news media is concerned about. Let's listen to what he said on another network about this.
Listening to your speech tonight, there's no mention of abortion. Why not?
Well, I understand that's what Democrats want to talk all day long about it, but the Supreme Court made clear that's an issue for the voters, state by state.
But it's still a huge issue for millions of Texans.
I recognize it's what the press is obsessed with, but you know what's interesting.
This has nothing. No. Let's not do that. This has nothing to do with what the press is obsessed about. There are voters that are obsessed with that.
Well, I recognize it's what the press is obsessed with, and I recognize
voters.
Okay,
are
I know that.